Hello my friends, welcome today. We're going to cut some grooves. Now I'm going to do the grooves before I cut these down to length, the sides. So we're going to cut the grooves in the sides and the back and the divider for the back. I'm going to do that because I am just now learning how to use my plane here. So I have a tendency to mess up. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna and if I do mess up, I have room. I can plane it back to start again. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna set a marking gauge for a mortise. This will just help set up the plane. You could probably skip this step if you wanted. And then I'm going to move this so it's 1/8 of an inch from the edge. This is why I'm going to get a bunch of these planes, is I'm going to, or not planes, marking gauges. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all my blades that I have, and set these up so they're all, so this gauge is all set, so I don't have to change it anymore. So eventually, that's one of my goals I'm going to do, is I'm going to get a marking gauge that goes with each one of the blades. So I have a bunch of them. So I don't have to keep adjusting everything. Alright, so now these lines won't exactly match, but that's what I'm going to use to set up the fence. So we're going to cut on the inside of these, and we're going to use our edge to register off of. So now we have to decide where we want, if we want on the outside or inside, what parts do we want. I'm going to pick, I think that's a little too loud, so I'm going to take the muted side, and that's going to be my outside. And again, I'm going to take this as my outside. So the reason for that is this I think is too distracting. So I'm going to try to keep this, the sides shouldn't be, in my mind, shouldn't be that interesting. So you can see the outside more once the spices are in there. So I'm going to take all this loud noises, the contrast there, and put that on the inside, because I think this is a little bit muted. There's not as much going on the sides. So I'm going to put that like that. So these are the inside now. And the front. And this is also going to be the back. So I wanted to make sure if I like this better as a front, as a back, I would plane this off and square this edge and change this to my reference edge. But this is fine. We're going to keep this as our back right here. The reference edges are going to be now, it's to the back. And once we cut the groove, it'll be pretty easy to figure out. But you can always write right in here. I'd probably write on the outside so it's easier to plane off later. Once you get the groove in, you'll know that what's the outside and what's the inside. But as of right now, it doesn't matter if it's a left and right. We'll decide that later. All we need to know is which side to set this to. So now that I have this, I'm going to mark on the inside version and just put a slight line in it. What that'll help me do is that'll help me line up the plane. And the problem with walnut is it's dark. So you have a hard time seeing lines sometimes. Alright, so this blade is freshly sharpened. It's a 1/4 inch blade. Put it with this particular style. You set the blade in, it's bevel down. So you stick the blade in, there's a little groove that it has to sit in, and then there's a little shoe on the side here that I need to set it in. Make sure it's all, there's another groove on this holding down part. Alright, so this is just lightly tightened. I'm going to look down the blade until the blade is just starting to show through. Now, I take this and I give it a little turn. That's one of my problems with this plane, is the fences and everything all change on me all the time. So that's a problem I'm having with this. But right now, I have that blade set, the depth set. And I'm going to set the shoe, the depth of it. And I'm going to set it to half the thickness of the board. So yep, I'm going to set it, it's round to 3/8. So I'm going to go 3/16. And what I'm measuring here is from the tip of the blade to the bottom of the fence. To make this a little easier, I'm going to set this at 3/16. I'm going to tighten this down. Now I've never had this one move, so I don't use the pliers on this set. This stays pretty well. And then slide the fence in, and this is where your marks help. Because I put the blade right in those marks. And this fence does move a lot. This is probably my biggest problem, so I really tighten these down. I think it'd be better if they had thumb screws as opposed to these knurled screws, whatever you call it. But double check. Okay, so now we need to hang this in the vise. This is going to be a challenge. This is where a tail vise or something would come in handy, but I don't have that, so. Let me think about this and I'll figure out a way to hold this to the bench, and then I'll be back. Okay, so what I have here is I have these clamped right to the edge of the bench, and I have just enough clearance so I'm not hitting the clamp. Alright, so this is my reference edge. So I'm going to take a little bit of a cut, just to make sure. And I want to make sure I hold that fence right along the edge. And I'm applying until I reach depth. This is turning out all right. All right. don't want to go any deeper. That hole's getting a little too thin for my liking. So I'm going to set that to the edge. So, yeah, I just didn't like how deep that was going. There. So, have you seen at the end, it was getting too thin. I mean, there's still plenty of meat there. I'm not worried about it breaking, but I didn't want to go any deeper, so I set the depth stop to that depth. Excuse me, stuttering. So, what you end up with is a nice flat groove all the way down with nice clean edges. So I'm going to do that on the other one. I'm going to record it just in case I make mistakes and I show you what I did, because this one turned out really nicely. But what I normally do is sometimes this fence slips over, especially at the beginning. I don't take it slow enough, and the end chips out. So this one turned out really nice. This is the way you want it to look. Like I said, I'll keep recording in case I make a mistake, and that way I can show you. But otherwise, I'll just cut it out if it works out okay. All right, so here we go. Okay, so now that we're back, I didn't have any problems with that. Turned out really nice. So we have two perfect grooves, or as near as perfect as I can get. Wow, let me check this for a second. Okay, so what I just did there was I was looking at these, and I stopped too early. This groove is not as deep. So I'm going to go back and run this through again, just to make sure. I'm not sure how I did that, but So now I have those two set. I'm gonna run this through just in case. Okay, so those are okay. Now, so this next one, I'm going to run this down the edges here as opposed to the face. I'm going to use the face as the reference. And this time, it should fit in the vise. I'm going to keep the reference on the front. And again, double check that I'm in the middle, but I don't really want to change it too much. But anyways. Something else I'm noticing too is I have a tendency to twist back and forth, and I want to try to keep this straight up and down. Okay, so that's done. I'm going to take this and just flip it end for end because I want that same reference edge on that side. Alright, so what's happening here is I'm getting a little bit too much tear out, and I don't like that. This is not my reference edge, so I'm going to take a plane, I'm going to plane it off again. I'm going against the grain, but there's nothing I can do about that. So what I got to do is I got to help this out. Alright. So what I'm going to do, find my reference edge. I'm going to run this down the face here to help separate those top fibers. That bottom back pin wasn't catching. That is why. That was really out of square. That was, I don't know, maybe that wasn't, I don't know if that was rubber or not, but okay, so what I'm trying to do here is try to separate those fibers from the edge. If it does it again, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to actually take a saw and cut that down a little bit. So find my reference edge. Once I get below those surface fibers, I'm hoping that won't be a problem then. Flaked up a little bit, but I think I'll be fine. I'll just go over and plane it off again, just to get nice clean edges. Okay, so I'm to depth. I'm going to take the plane and just run it down this a little bit. There. Take. There. So now it looks really rough in the bottom, but you won't ever see that. And the edge has nice and crisp lines. Yeah, those surface fibers will have a tendency to chip. I guess there's a little bit right there and there. I could plane that down, I guess, but I think it'll be okay. You know what? We're gonna do that just to be perfect. Nice. Okay. There. So we have perfectly clean, no tear out edges along the edge there. And yeah. So next time I see you, we'll make the next we'll continue working, I guess. Yeah, I think next thing we'll do is we'll cut the grooves and layout for we'll work on the top and the bottom. So this piece is basically done and all the grooves are set. When it comes to fitting the back, we'll plane those down, we'll get those all set up, but this is what we'll have so far. So we have a side and a middle part, and then the other side on the other side of that. So that's how this is going to go. They should line up. Well, lined up better that way. Yeah, that's where we're going to go from there. So I will see you guys next time, and have a good day. So I know last time I was saying we're going to work on I said I was going to be done for that day, but I'm going to do a little bit more on this video because I want to get the sides dimensioned. What I did here is this box here is 2 3/4 deep with this, but this is a 1/4 inch thick wood. So ours is going to be 3/8. So I need to go 2 7/8. So I just set that up, make sure I did it right. All right, so we have 2 7/8 gauge. So again, I'm going to do this just like I did the other ones. Is I'm going to take this and we're going to scribe down from our reference face. So we're taking this from our reference face, and I'm going to scribe a line down here, and there. And again, you can go across the edge if you like, but it doesn't really make much difference. Because we have such a lot of wood to cut off, I'm gonna saw this one down. Try to keep this in camera. So always be careful to carry your space, because I have cut things I didn't want to cut on my bed. So I'm using the crosscut saw because I have such a long ways. But I am probably a 1/16 off the edge of my line. So you can see that. I'm not, there's my line here. I'm actually over a little bit because I'm going to plane down to that line. I'm just taking off some of the waste first, so I don't have to do so much. You want to watch that it try not to get all that split, because I have had it so it's split into the actual body of what I was trying to do, so I'm holding it up here to support it. And even though I probably have 1 inch to go, I'm going to slow down. And that way it doesn't split. I have, like I said, I have had it where it split down into my wood, and it just made me mad. So now I'm going to take the plane. I always try to save my smoothing plane and keep it as sharp as possible longer by taking the majority of the cuts from a more coarse tool. Almost went too far, and I'm going to get some tear out. So I try to judge the right direction, but you never know until you start working. But I do want to point something out. There's not much I can do about this because I don't want to go deeper than that. But you see when that tear out, because I was going in the wrong direction, it split and there's like a big gash now down here. I could plane this all flat again, but I think I'm gonna just leave it. Might come out when we do the front anyways, but and we're gonna be chamfering the edges of everything, so that should mostly disappear. And it's not square, so looks like squaring it up took care of almost all of it anyways. Nice. Okay, just being a little picky there. The main thing is I really want this face square to the edge. If it's a little thicker down here than it was there, like the couple shavings that I took down, you won't ever see that. But I don't know, I was being picky. And it didn't take me any more time to do it, just clean it off. These sides, we want to ideally make the same. So I'm going to try to be really careful the next one I do to make it so they're exactly the same. And I might take these and just plane off a few shavings just to get them equal. So let me cut this down and get this one close, and then we'll figure it out. I'll show you later. So. Okay, so these are extremely close to the same thickness, but what I want to do is I'm going to take these and I'm going to pinch them together. I think I've seen this trick where you take Okay, there's just a hairline difference between the two. There, now they are exactly the same. It's only a few shavings, that's all it took. The better you get it sticking to the line, the closer what less you have to do there, but I wanted to show you that. So now these are ready, basically ready for putting into, for the top and the bottom. So that's what we're gonna do next, is we're gonna do the top and the bottom and do the joinery for that in the next video. So thank you, bye.